Hello and welcome back to the Freelancers Tea Break, the short and sweet podcast you can enjoy as a freelancer with your cuppa. Now, this week I wanted to give you a little behind the scenes look at some of the things that I track every week. I track them with my team. If I don't track them with my team, I'm probably not going to remember to do them. And I wanted to share some of the things in case they're things that you might want to start tracking and might find useful in your freelance business. So the first thing that I track every week with my team is discovery calls and coaching clients. So how many discovery calls I've got booked. I also track where they've come from. So this is such an important thing to do. Make sure you're tracking how your clients are finding you or you're finding your clients. That data is invaluable. Knowing what really works for you will really help you with your marketing and things like that later on. But I track how many discovery calls I have each week and also across the month, and how many clients I have signed up each month. Now, these work really well together because you can work out how many discovery calls you need to have in order generally to land however many clients, and knowing that ratio really will help you. Hopefully, it will mean that you get to a point where there's not a huge amount of difference between the two, and there are lots of things that you can do to help with that. I think I might do a podcast on that another time, actually, in how to basically avoid having too many time wasters coming on discovery calls, but also to make sure that your copy and everything that you're sharing is as clear as possible. So discovery calls and your coaching clients. So those are the kind of first two things, and it probably takes a minute to do that just to double check. It also means I can double check that I've got them booked in for the right sessions that week or if they need anything, and also gives me a nudge if I need to follow up with anyone. I don't tend to do pushy sales, but I might send a quick message saying, just want to check if there's any questions. If not, absolutely fine. So my next thing is I track core sales. So what's doing well, any trends. So for example, at the moment, we're coming into the time when I get a few more interested parties in my graduate to freelancer course. So that's really useful to know that. It's also useful to see at certain times in the month what sells better. So for example, I tend to find my slightly higher priced, all my courses are really affordable, but the ones at the higher end do better at the start of the month, usually when people have just got paid, and then near the end of the month, some of the other ones, finding clients, sometimes that does a bit better, say the third week of the month. So it's really useful to do that, but also it gives me a target to work towards for how many sales I want to make, and what works and what doesn't. Next one is social media following. Now, it doesn't always mean a huge amount. For example, I've been working on my TikTok following, but if I'm honest, it's not that difficult to grow on TikTok. What is difficult is getting quality people following you because there's so many spam followers. I have about 5 or 6 Keanu Reeves accounts following me. None of them, unfortunately, are the real one. So I take it with a pinch of salt, but it's really useful to know all my social media handles, what's working, what's not. If there's starting to see a lack of growth, is it something that I need to do a push for? Do I need to do a bit more interactive content? Do I need to have a look through and see what's worked? Or do I need to do some research? So I do Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I actually don't track LinkedIn because LinkedIn for me is a lot more about interactions and conversations and comments, and I don't tend to track those numbers. I'm just having a look at my list here. I also track podcast size, so how many followers, or it's actually easier to see how many listens a podcast has had. So that tends to be the number I focus on. The YouTube channel I'm now focusing on a bit more to try and grow that. I don't tend to worry too much about the stats of each individual video. I tend to look at that on a monthly basis. My mailing list size, so how many people are signed up. I will also probably every month or so have a look through and see what's working for the mailing list, because I use ConvertKit so I can see which freebies are working well. So like I can see generally I get a good drip feed of people who sign up for my 5 ways to find your next client training video, because that's the freebie that gets offered when they join the Facebook group. So that tends to get a really steady flow. The quiz I have, what's your freelance personality, that tends to get a little bit of a boost every time I share it anywhere, because it's like a really bright, colourful one that catches people's eyes, and they want to know what their personality is, and it really leads to some great discussions as well. And so I do have lots of different freebies, and it's interesting to see what works and what doesn't in terms of getting people signed up. and interacting. I don't keep too much of an eye on unsubscribes, although ConvertKit send out an email every week to tell you how many have subscribed and how many are unsubscribed. And if I'm getting to the point where just as many people have unsubscribed as they are subscribing, then that's an issue, and that's when I need to assess what's happening, maybe look at my welcome sequences and see where people are dropping out, or those sorts of things. I get really, really lovely feedback on the newsletter. It's one of the proudest things I have. One of the things I'm most proud of in my business is those two newsletters. So I have one that goes out on Monday, a to-do list, and on Friday I have a roundup, and I get the loveliest feedback from both of those. So it's something I'm really keen to do well and really serve my readers as much as possible. And the Facebook group. I also track the Facebook group just to see what's working, what's not, and it's great to see sometimes. I have 3 questions set up when people join. One that's a qualifying question, just to make sure that they are freelance or looking to be freelance. One, do they want the freebie, which is where they can put their email in if they do. And the final one is, how do they hear about the group and what do they want to get out of it? And that's really useful to look through as well. It all goes into a spreadsheet for me automatically through a tool that I use, so I can see what's bringing people in. So I had a flurry of new ones, which turned out this week was from another Facebook group, somebody mentioning it in there. That tends to be where I get the biggest burst of them, but quite often I get them through the podcast and other areas as well. So those are the key ones I would say I track every week. Probably takes 5 to 15 minutes, depending on if we're finding about a bit more information about something, like if we suddenly see a big unsubscribe number on emails, we might then dive into that more and find out why. There are a couple of other ones that I do occasionally as well. So at the moment I'm writing a book, so I'm doing a little bit more in terms of tracking how much I've written and how many pictures I've sent. Or will be sending. I haven't sent one quite yet, but my pitch is ready to do. And if I'm doing a launch, I will probably track some numbers around that as well. Also, I will track things like, or my team actually will track invoices that are sent and invoices that are paid. It just makes it a lot easier to keep an eye on things. So those are the key ones. And then I will also, with my team, we'll have a quick look through where we're at with my key goals for each quarter and each month, what tasks are outstanding. So I use a Notion board for all of this, and in the Notion board, I've all my team put their tasks onto the Notion board so we can see where everyone's at with everything. But it means that I can go through and just double check if there's anything I need to sign off or I need to double check or anything like that. I don't really need to micromanage because they're a great team. So I think that's the main ones. It's one of those things that if I had to do it on my own, I don't know if I would always stick to it. Whereas having somebody there that I know I'm going to check in with each week keeps it on top of me, on top of things. I had a conversation with someone recently about how we were talking about systems, having great systems, and I believe that if you could have the best system in the world, but if you're not using it regularly or you're struggling to use it regularly, that's where the accountability has to come in. So it's something that I think is really important to do in your business. But if you're struggling to do it on your own, that's when you need the help. I have actually just recently launched a new offering, which I'll put the details in the description. It's a Voxer offering where we do 15 minutes check-in on a Monday or Tuesday and a 15-minute check-in on a Thursday or Friday. Bookend your week, depending on what your week looks like, to check in what you need to do that week, where you're at with everything in your business, and then at the end, review it, celebrate it, commiserate it, learn from it. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, do have a look in the description, and that might be of use to you. I would love to know what you track in your business. Do come on over to the Facebook group, the Freelance Lifestylers, and share there if you're interested, or if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to pop something in the comments. And you can find me on all the social networks, so come find me there and let me know what you think as well. Have a wonderful freelance week.